Well, Niner fans, I thought I'd be live with a big different result today, a way different result today. But here we are. The 49ers just ended their first preseason game against the Raiders, and it was not what we expected. It was what Michelle says a disaster. It was an absolute disaster. At the end of the day, thank God it was only a preseason game, but it was a clunker. It was like watching the bad news Bears today. Somebody texted me that earlier, and I said, you know what? That's really what it was like. It was like watching the bad news Bears. There's a lot we could talk about. There's a lot of bad to talk about. There was not a lot of good to talk about. But hey, it's the first game of the season. We got football on the docket, but it just wasn't pretty football. S. Flood says bleach smoothies for dinner. Not yet, because again, it's preseason. You just like to see these guys get out there. And Deb says, "Is there any injuries?" Thankfully, there was no injuries because that would have been the icing on this disgusting cake, a disgusting, moldy, rotten cake if they would have had injuries. So thankfully, there was no injuries. But let's get right to it. The offensive line was stinky, 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 like rotten cheese. You know, that's one thing I mentioned in training camp was I'm not liking what I see out of the backup linemen. I kept saying Nick Zakel, Jason Poe, they just not looking good. Matt Price, like these guys didn't look good in the preseason and in the training camp. And you know, we got people saying that, oh, you guys you're just content creators. You don't know, you don't watch. They were awful today. They were so bad today. The offensive line was so damn bad today. They were bad. They were bad. I called it like I said it. They were bad, and they were absolutely atrocious in this game. I get it. It's preseason. We got to see them develop. But if there's an injury this season to a starting lineman, I pray for this team because these linemen were very bad. Um, Kyle just said it's hard not to put Trey in to start the third. Yeah, you know, it's tough, man. You know, let's talk about Trey. He didn't have a good game himself. You know, he was behind pressure early on. He just didn't seem to get a lot of time in the pocket, but he held the ball really long a lot of the times. And I feel like he was very scared. He looked kind of terrified at times. He was holding that ball. The line was collapsing, just collapsing like crazy. Michelle, she says the O line collapsed too quick. They collapsed like just so fast. It was just bad to watch, you know? The O line was in constant pressure. Trey Lance was under constant duress, and he didn't make a lot of good plays early on. There was a few times where he had a chance to hit an open receiver early on, but for the most part, he just didn't have much time. They weren't getting the run game going, and then finally that touchdown pass, which we'll talk about, the offense started clicking. Trey started getting in a rhythm, so he started really slow, and then he started building a rhythm. We talked about this the last week. Trey's a rhythm quarterback, right? He has to get in a rhythm. He starts slow a lot of the times throughout his career. Even that Houston game a couple years back when he threw the dart, Debo, they had to come back of that game. They started slow that game. Trey Lance is a rhythm quarterback, and he didn't get into a rhythm. The O-line didn't really let him, but Trey didn't play good. He talked about it, too, right after the game. He had a great interview right when they were leaving the field, and he said, you know what? I got to hold myself accountable. I got to do better. I got to do better than what I just did. He knows he didn't play great. Trey Lance had an opportunity ahead of him, and he you know, didn't look too good. Obviously, the stats will tell you a different story. No interceptions. He had a touchdown, right? He had a better day than Sam Darnold, 112 yards passing and statistics, but the touchdown pass was an almost interception, and he almost threw two interceptions also in the game. The touchdown was crazy. He throws it to Chris Conley in traffic. The ball should have been picked. It gets deflected, and Ross Dwelly, with the laser focus, I don't know how he comes down with this touchdown. Shout out to Ross Dwelly. He might make the roster just because of that touchdown and the fact that Cameron Latu, I told y'all in the training camp session, I said it, Cameron Latu, he goes out there, he coats his gloves with cocoa butter, and then he puts bricks, and then he puts just oil and aloe vera on his hands, and he comes out and tries to catch the ball, and guess what he does? And guess what he does? He drops it. He had a fumble. Cameron Latu? Cameron Latu is, no, he's not that guy. He's not that guy, pal. I don't know. I didn't like him so far. I haven't liked the pick. Didn't like him in training camp. I know they need tight ends, but they need to put Braden Willis. He was much better in training camp. This was not a good game for Cameron Latu. Cameron Latu looked absolutely just he looked horrible. It was horrible. It was bad, very bad, and he did it again today. It was not bad. It didn't look good. But I'll tell you what, Ross Dwelly, nice focus. I love that he stayed with the pass and he caught it. So good for him. Good for him. Good for him. I will say this. If anybody had any doubts on Brock Purdy being QB1 after today, he's the guy, whether you like it or not. Because, and I'm not saying anything bad on Trey. I mean, Brock, obviously, he gets to play with the ones. It would be nice to see what Trey could do with the ones. But you could just see he's just kind of tentative. He's a raw quarterback. I love the guy. He's got a good head on his shoulders, but he's very, very tentative. And Brock, he's coming off of surgery. And I think he's going to be that guy once he gets back into the roster. It's going to be nice to see CMC, the starting lineup, offensive line, and Debo, and then Brandon Ayuk. But that's, another story for another day. Kittle. But it's definitely going to be nice to see this offense in full cylinder because, Chris Conley, these guys just didn't have, everything that Ayuk and those guys are going to have. But I'll shout out Chris Conley. He had a decent game, Ronnie Bell, great game. Unfortunately, he made a rookie mistake at the end of the game, led to an interception off of Brandon Allen, surprised he had made it to the game. I guess his wife was supposed to be in labor or something, but shout out to Brandon Allen. He made it to the game. But, yeah, Ronnie Bell looked pretty damn good in this game. I think he's one of the best rookies that showed out today. He had a mistake, but let's talk about some other guys that had some mistakes. Jake Moody, not a good performance by Jake Moody. I feel like he, maybe under the pressure, under the gun, he's a third-round kicker. There's going to be a lot of pressure on his shoulders, to develop. But I think he'll be fine, But you got to remember, this team is putting a lot of pressure on Jake Moody. He missed 2 field goals. Jitters. There's a lot of jitters, but people are going to put a lot of pressure on him throughout this season because if he misses one, people are gonna hate on Jake Moody. Again, I know a lot of people were disappointed, but it is what it is, Hold on 1 second. It's tough, but yeah, Jake Moody, you were drafted in 3rd round. He got a leg. He has a leg, but he missed. He looked bad. He's definitely going to be under the microscope this season. So, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Jake Moody. And Zane Gonzalez was, battling him in camp. This was Jake's first, start. He didn't come out and look too sharp today. But again, it's early. Hopefully you get these butterflies out and you get these bad yips out of the way. But Robbie Gould, man, everybody's going to compare Robbie Gould to Jake Moody, whether we like it or not. It's crazy. It's Robbie Gould is going to be the guy that gets all the glory from here on out if Jake Moody looks bad. I know, I get it. Robbie Gould was a guy that was going to be expensive as a kicker. It's hard to justify that, but it's a lot of pressure on Jake Moody's shoulders. I love Jake. I was his biggest fan coming out of college. I'm still a big fan of Jake Moody, but yeah, it was a disappointing debut for Jake Moody. I'm not going to lie to you. So, how would Lance have looked with the first team? It's a good question. That's a good question. We all want to know. We don't know. And that's the thing. We're never going to know how he's going to look with the first team. We don't know because he's not going to say he's not going to get to play with the first team. And I think that's where a lot of people that have, issues with Brock Purdy starting is because of the fact they say that, well, Lance hasn't earned his he hasn't really had the fair chance. Brock Purdy hasn't earned his spot, So it's tough. Trey Lance, unfortunately, injuries came to fruition last 2 years, really. And Brock Purdy took that opportunity last year and ran with it. We know the whole story, So it is what it is. C-Max says Trey went against a second-team defense. Who cares if our starters weren't out there? LMAO. And that's the point is Trey Lance did play up against backups. He did go up the field with backups, but he also played against backups. 3rd year in the league, you would hope that he'd show out because there's been a lot of quarterbacks that showed out in their preseason debut. At the end of the day, you got to go out there and look the part. He did start slow, like I said, but I feel like he turned it around as things kind of went throughout the game. But, yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. I would have loved to have seen a little bit more out of Trey. Sam Darnold, he looked early. I was a little scared that, remember I said Sam Darnold was going to go crazy this game. He had a nice little play to Ronnie Bell. Ronnie Bell, man, he had some big moments. Again, he made a mistake at the end, but I'll tell you that Sam Darnold has some nice plays. But I'll tell you, Ronnie Bell overall looked like a very, very good polished player. I think he's going to battle. He's going to make this roster. I think as he continues to go through these next two preseason games, I think Ronnie Bell is going to make this roster. Another guy that really stood out to me was Deshaun Jameson. Remember, I told you guys, the undrafted player out of Texas. I feel like he's really going to make his name known in the return game. And today he did it. He was a return guy in college, and today he had 3 nice returns. But the problem that got me every time Deshaun Jameson had a big return, there was a holding call. So those rookies have to really clean things up. There was a lot of mistakes, a very sloppy game. So those guys have to clean that up. I wasn't a fan of all those penalties, but again, it's early. 49ers do have a slow start, especially with those type of mistakes, So we need to clean that up. But Deshaun Jameson, man, this guy has something as in terms of a return guy. I love that. He has big play potential as a return man. I'm telling you. Big play potential as a return man. King Gio says, Trey played trash competition in college. These are the guys we would have played against if we went to a better school. That's a good point, actually. That's a very good point. Problem for Trey is he hasn't played top competition. Now he's playing bigger competition, and he is struggling. So you got to put it. That's 100%. I agree with you on that, King Joe. It is unfortunate. Again, third season in the league, and Trey still kind of comes out the gate slow. Again, he did improve as the game went on. That's the thing about Trey. It's frustrating to see because you're like, okay, he gets in a rhythm, and then you take him out, and it's like, what? And then you still have questions. You're still lingering. You're like, okay, what would he have done with the first team and this and that and the other? But ultimately, Trey's been given some chances, and when he has been out there, it doesn't go right half the time, and then the O-line struggles, and it's unfortunate to see the guy because he's a good guy, and his interview was great. Like, he's such a good kid, and a good, humble young man, but the Niners need to win the Super Bowl, and I don't know if Trey Lance is going to be the guy to take them there. If Brock Purdy gets down, we got to hope that Trey is ready to roll and lead this offense. But, I feel like the QB2 battle is still going to be lingering at these next 2 preseason games. Sam Darnold and Trey Lance, they're still going to battle, and Trey said he's got to go out there next week and do better. So, at the end of the day, it's still not over. So, what do you guys think? I'll take some questions here. Sorry, I got a lot of people hitting me up today after this game. I forgot how crazy it gets after a game. Bear with me. It's a new season. We got to get back to form. So, how are you guys feeling? How are you guys doing? How did you guys enjoy the game today? If you even enjoyed it? I don't think you could have enjoyed this game. There was no enjoyment to be had in this game. It was a debacle. No fun. Michael says, I think we played like trash. Oh, man. I thought Moody was him. Yeah, I thought so. Maria Shati says, on the positive, how about Ambry Thomas? Yeah, Ambry Thomas made some plays today. Shout out to Ambry Thomas. He did make some plays. A big 4th down stop. Another guy that made some plays, Clelin Ferrell, against his old team. He showed out a little bit. There wasn't a lot of guys that showed out today. Again, Deshaun Jameson, Ronnie Bell, Ambry Thomas, and Clelin Ferrell. Maybe those are the guys that probably stood out the most, right? JR says, still don't get how we didn't draft any O-linemen. The depth is bad. Yeah, I was not happy about this offensive line. Definitely wasn't a fan of the O-line today. They were bad. The depth was just stinky. I said it before in training camp. I'm not too happy with this O-line depth. I hope they play better as things get moving, but this O-line today was just so bad, man. They were just getting bull rushed by the Raiders. The Raiders played this like it was a Super Bowl. Like we said the other day, We all felt like this is the Raiders coming out and showing their dominance because this is a rival. They're going to play this like a Super Bowl game. But I tell you what, man, really, the 49ers just came out with no energy. I thought they were going to play a lot better. You got a lot of youngsters that want to make this team, but a lot of them just didn't show a lot of energy, especially this offensive line. And early on, the defensive line didn't look good. Ambry did play good, but on the flip side, Isaiah Oliver, who's supposed to be the starting nickel, he was so bad in coverage today. And I thought he was going to be, one of the key players of this team. I know it's early. I know it's preseason one. Training camp, he looked good, but today he was getting pushed around, getting beaten coverage, let up a touchdown. A lot of mistakes to clean up. The team has a lot of mistakes, and it is what it is. Like I said, it's early. This is what preseason's all about, finding what your weaknesses are. The Niners started slow last year in preseason and the early season, and they made it to the NFC Championship game. So, obviously it's not over. This is preseason game one. It's not the end of the world, but you want to see a team come out a little better than this. Alex says Womack over Oliver. Shout out to Womack. I think he still has a chance. I thought it was set in stone, signed and delivered. Oliver was going to be the guy. They said he's the starter. Don't sleep on Sam Womack, although he's not fitted to be an outside corner. I will say that. 49er Jeff says, we look horrible, plain and simple. Today was a horrible game. I don't even think the Niners should have scored a touchdown. It was 34-7, but the touchdown was a magical pinball wizard type score. Like, it was we got lucky. 49er Jeff says, we better call Robbie back. Should we call Robbie Gold and say, hey, I'm sorry we drafted Jake Moody. You guys want Robbie Gold back? Are you guys upset at Jake Moody? Again, I think, he's going to get these yips out of him. He'll get it out of his system. Justin Tucker, Hall of Fame kicker, potential Hall of Fame kicker, when he hangs it all up, he started his preseason, 4 for 8. He was trash his rookie season. Nobody thought he was going to be good, but he's one of the best kickers in the league. So at the end of the day, these early stats to me don't bug me, but we invested a third round pick on a kicker. People are going to hold this man accountable. People are going to be mad at Jake Moody because 49ers passed on an offensive lineman. We need offensive linemen for a kicker. It's going to be one of those things where the Niner fans are going to hold John Lynch accountable because they didn't put a emphasis on that kicking spot. So, Julius Callaway, what about Zane Gonzalez? You know what? In training camp, him and Moody were going back and forth. Maybe they'll put Zane Gonzalez out there next week. Again, this is early. They did draft the guy in mind for him to be the franchise kicker, but maybe the pressure got to him today. I think he'll be okay. I'm sure he'll be fine moving forward, but that was a lot. That I feel like if he can't handle the pressure in a preseason game one, what's it going to be? Playoffs. 3 seconds left. You're on the 40-yard line to attempt to kick, and you got to make this to win the game. That's pressure. That's when you got to sack up. So it is early, but we'll see how this plays out in the season. There's going to be a lot of pressure on the guy, and Niner fans are going to come out every time he makes a bad kick. Every time he misses, people are going to say, hey, look, you were a third-round pick. I'm telling you, man. Like, as much as I think he will be fine, he's still going to have to live up to the third-round draft. It's going to be something that follows him, And I'm not trying to say I hate the pick or he's going to be horrible, he's going to be a bust, but it's going to follow him through his career right now. He has to live up to that billing, you know what I mean? Because Robbie Gold, one thing he didn't do was miss in the playoffs. He was a captain for this team. He was a leader. This guy would get into Jalen Ramsey's face. He kind of set the tone for this team at many times. Like, it's kind of crazy to think a kicker could set the tone. We'll see. Alex Lance is a bust. He definitely isn't living up to his draft billing. Not looking good right now. Mr. Sacker says no forgiveness if he misses those kicks during the regular season. Yeah, exactly. See, I'm saying Niner fans are not going to go lightly on him, and I already see it. So, Sam Darnold move up the ladder. I don't think he did anything to move up the ladder today. He did make some nice throws. I'll give him that. He started out really solid early on, but he didn't finish any better than he started. I feel like Trey started slow, and then he got a little better as the game progressed. Again, he's a rhythm type quarterback, like we talked. He kind of has to find that groove. Sam Darnold started strong, threw some dimes to Ronnie Bell, and as the game progressed, I feel like he just didn't show me anything special. So I feel like they're still pretty much at the same point. Maybe Trey a little bit better or a little bit higher, but I mean, again, he played a little bit better competition than Sam. Sam played against lesser competition in the second half, but I feel like both of them are kind of there at that QB2 role. Jimmy, yeah, so that's what I think. I feel like Trey and Sam, they didn't really, neither one impressed me much. Sam did come out and shoot some lasers out. Like I said, that sideline pass to Ronnie Bell was the most money pass of the game. Trey did have a dart over the middle when they started kind of moving the ball. His touchdown pass was kind of gifted to him, so I don't even count that. You know, they both kind of didn't really throw a touchdown, although Trey Lance is going to get credited for it, for a touchdown, but did he really throw that touchdown? No. He throws it, it gets deflected. Ross Dwelly with the play of his life, the focus, he saves the play. You take away that, it's either an incomplete pass or it could have been an interception. So, I mean, that's kind of a wash. They both didn't have an interception. But again, Sam did have some nice money passes. But as the game progressed, he kind of was lackluster, and the offense overall was stale. But again, O-line wasn't moving the ball well. They made a lot of silly mistakes. The fumble by Cameron Latu was nasty. So, just a lot of mistakes by this team. Oh, Alex said Jimmy was loving it. I'm sure he was having a feel. I'm sure he was laughing it up. I'm sure he was laughing it up. Jeff, I pray Brock is ready to go too, because what I saw today out of these quarterbacks was no good. Skyflow says, I feel bad for Trey. He looks nervous in the pocket and not confident. Yeah, that's what I said as we started the show. Like, you can just see that Trey was a little afraid. He was afraid out there. Again, what is the biggest thing I've always said about Trey is confidence. And he just sometimes doesn't have it. And again, he has to kind of get into a flow of the game. Early on, he just couldn't get in a flow. He was timid, and those guys were chasing him because the O-line was crushed. He didn't know where to go. He was holding the ball for like a gajillion seconds, and he would take sacks. They had him sacked 3 times before the second quarter even started. It was crazy, man. Rocio says, "Do you think it's a lack of them being able to develop, or him, or just him?" I think it's a combination. I think he was very raw coming out. He played against North Dakota State. It's not the biggest talent pool in the world. That was one of the knocks on him is he played against lesser competition. And the 49ers have had a hard time overall with the quarterback position. They got lucky with Sam, or where Brock Purdy came out last year and they went on the run. But again, he's playing with that first team offense. It's hard to really see. Trey Lance hasn't necessarily played with that first team, but when he has, wasn't overly impressive. And then he got hurt. And that's the other thing. He hasn't been able to develop much because of the injuries. Kind of like Javon Kinlaw, right? When you're not on the field, you're not going to get any better, and you're always behind the 8 ball. So kind of Trey Lance is in that same situation. It's unfortunate for him. He hasn't been able to really get on the field and do better. He needs the time. He needs the reps. And today he was given a whole first half. You would expect a lot more, and it was very lackluster. Again, he kind of started moving a little bit more towards the end of that half. But Kyle wanted to keep his word and said he was only going to play him the first half. He said it was hard to not start him out there in the third because he did look like he was getting a little bit more comfortable out there. So, yeah, 96 says, good thing we got all these mistakes out now. I agree. It's good that they got rid of the mistakes now, because you don't want to see these types of mistakes later down the line. Although I will say, I don't know if they're going to be able to get everything cleaned up in 3 weeks in the preseason. I just hope that none of this stuff lingers into the regular season. The Niners traditionally start slow under Kyle Shanahan. The 2019 season was the best year we had in terms of a start. But the last every other year, it's been an abysmal start. I don't want to get down to another slow start. We all know how important it is to get to a strong start, get that number 1 seed. But I don't know, man. It's tough. I feel like, as much as I don't want the starters to play in the preseason, sometimes I kind of do, because you want them to at least get out there, get their conditioning, get their rhythm right. Are they going to be rusty when the week 1 comes? I don't want to go to week 1 and have them lose to the Steelers and then they're rusty. It's fine. And then it just kind of spirals. Then it gets down to, okay, 2 weeks in a row, they're rusty. And then you're down, your record's 2-5. And then all of a sudden this mid-season turnaround and you go on a run. By the time you go on that run, though, it takes so much energy, I want them to get out the gate strong. So maybe if you lose a game or 2 in the mid-season, you're not as gassed out. I feel like last year they were so damn exhausted by the time they went on that run. They didn't have any more energy. Nick Bosa, hand on the hips, huffing and puffing in the playoffs. He didn't have any help, so we need him to get to a strong start. I get it, it's preseason, but the 49ers have notoriously had a slow start under Kyle Shanahan. So King Geo says Nick Bosa just made a lot more money today. He did, man. Without even playing, Nick Bosa made more money today because that defense did not look like the number one defense. Although I know they didn't have all their starters. I get it. Hargrave and Armstead weren't there. But those depth players getting pushed. Nick Bosa probably got paid more by not even playing today. That's crazy. That's a good point. Brendan says, I want to see a full game of Trey Lance. I think a lot of people do. I think a lot of people hold that, same thought. I think a lot of people want to see him go with the ones more, It's tough, but I feel like, based on last year, we can't discount what Brock did last year. BPBG, what's up, Shasho? Hope all is well. Yeah, pretty good, doing well. Jair looked like a dog today. He had some moments. Drunk Polish, my man. He says our D line backups, more pressure. I mean, the whole depth was just not good. Yeah, this is a good comment. It says they have to earn the number one defense each year. New coordinator going to be interesting. You're right. They're not the number one defense this year. They were the number one defense last year. They were the number one defense last year, not this year. So that is a very good point. They got to earn it. You can't just go on the field and expect to dominate without playing and putting in the work. But I think obviously they have a hell of a team. There's a lot of great players on this team, and we all feel they can be that top-tier defense. But you have to prove it this year, and it is going to be different without D'Amico Ryans. We talked about it the other day after Houston played and said, hey, look, it is going to be tough without D'Amico. He was a difference maker. His energy on the field will be missed. I like Wilkes. I like what I've seen out of him. He's a teacher, but I'll say this. It was definitely weird. It was definitely weird to see him in the booth calling. I was waiting to see, someone get hyped on the sideline. The last two defensive coordinators, Robert Salah and D'Amico Ryans, all this energy. And I feel like it carried over to this defense. Like you always see Fred Warner when D'Amico was hyped, he was hyped. When Salah was hyped, D'Amico was hyped. And it brought the energy. And now they don't have that on the sideline. So it's going to be interesting. You're absolutely right. This is a great question. If you were Trey, would you ask for a trade? I would. Hell yeah, I would. If I'm Trey, I'm not happy with the situation. I'm not. I'm the third number 3 pick overall a couple years ago. Had to sit and wait my turn. Okay, I get it. That's the business. I'm okay with that. Although they should have started me my first year. Whatever. That's cool. I'll wait. Jimmy's a cool guy. He took me under his wing. I love it. Thank you, Top Gun Maverick. Whatever. We get that whole story. That's okay. Second year, come out, get hurt. That sucks. It does suck. But I feel like before that, they weren't really going to give me that starter spot. They still were kind of up in the air. Oh, we don't know who's the starter. We don't know if anybody's going to be alive on Sunday. They never really committed to him, right? It's kind of weird. And now, okay, third year, he's not even in consideration to start because Brock Purdy had the magical run, which I respect and I love it. And Brock Purdy should be the starter after what he did last year. Trey lost his job due to injury, which in the old days, that wasn't the case. But it's a whole new type of, NFL we have now. And you're going out there, you don't get any reps with the ones. You don't really get any respect on this team. I feel like Kyle doesn't care about it. It's just my thoughts. I don't feel like they're developing right. If I'm Trey Lance, go get me somewhere to a team that's going to let me play every single down and be a starter. And if I fail, I fail. That's on me. If I fail, I fail. But give me a chance somewhere in this league because I feel like I'm never going to get a chance that I deserve if I'm Trey Lance. So, yeah. Red Eye says, worse beating than with the Eagles. Let's not talk about the Eagles. I mean, it's a shitty loss, but it's preseason. Kyle was raging today. When's he not? He was pissed. Sati says, in Kyle's offense, you have to hit the easy throws. Brock excels on that. Trey struggles mightily with that. That is definitely a key. We saw that in training camp. He did struggle with those short passes. He can hit the pretty deep pass. He can hit those crossers over the middle of those tight window pass. Like Trey can hit those passes that you're like, how did he hit that? But the small, short passes, you're right. Trey has to be able to hit those because that's the offense. It's get the ball to the playmakers. It's dink and dunk. It's throw it to the Yak Bros and let them do the rest. Just like Justin Fields did yesterday, right? I know people were like, oh, my God, Justin Fields. And they were hating on him. And part of me was like laughing at that, the fact that everybody was like gassing him up. But that's what you need to do in an offense like the 49ers is you have playmakers like Debo and Kittle and Ayuk and et cetera, et cetera. Although Trey didn't get to play with those guys, but that's the thing. If you can't hit him with the backups, Kyle's not even going to give you that opportunity to go with the starters. Probably, I feel like Trey's in the doghouse at this point. It's unfortunate, but I mean, I feel like he's in the doghouse because you got to hit those simple plays for Kyle to give you respect. And Jimmy says, "Am I going to the Broncos game? I might be there. I might pull up." Angel Leon says, "Do I think Latu will make the team?" God, man, based off what I've seen from him right now, no, which is crazy because he's a third-round tight end. But then at the same time, Kyle's not going to want to look silly. He's not going to want to look silly. But Ross Dwelly probably locked the roster spot down just by making that magical catch today. He had the focus was, and he hasn't had a strong catch, but that was a good moment for him. You know, it's tough, man. VZ says Trey has a good O-line and weapons. Why is he struggling? Because he doesn't have a good O-line and weapons. He's playing with the backups. None of those guys were really good, especially that O-line. The O-line today was horrible. They were horrible. 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 Let's see what happens at the Broncos game. Yeah, I can't wait for next week already. He's got to push this game behind him. You know. Lawrence says we should have drafted Fields. I said it on draft night. I mean, I sat here 6 months gassing up the guy. I love the Justin Fields coming out of the draft. You know, I'm not the biggest Ohio State guy, but I saw something. I thought he'd be the right fit with Kyle. But maybe it turned out for the best for the Niners because I don't know. Do you think that Kyle would have developed him the right way? I don't know. Maybe that's not the type of quarterback he wanted. You know. Supreme says all quarterbacks should have the same amount of reps with the ones. It's tough when you got so many quarterbacks, and Kyle wants to make sure they're all prepped and ready and able to run the offense, you know, and you got to give Brock his reps because he's coming off an injury. It's a tough balance. I feel like it's really tough to balance this whole roster of quarterbacks, you know. With Brock's coming off the UCL, you want to make sure he's getting enough reps so his arm gets strong and you know, it doesn't break down middle of the season because, damn, I should have let him throw the ball more. And Trey does deserve it because, you know, you drafted him with the 3rd pick in the draft. You should see what he has with this team. It's 3 years. If you don't know what the hell he can give you, what the hell is he on the roster for? So, and then Sam Darnold. If one of those two gets hurt, do you think he's going to be able to lead this offense and win games? He doesn't have much chemistry with those other guys. Although he has played with Debo a lot in the preseason, in the training camp. They were on the field a lot together. I feel like Darnold has a little bit more time this offseason during training camp with Debo and Ayuk. Even though he was playing with the seconds, they put in Debo and Ayuk in the second team sometime. It was crazy to me. I was like, you know, I don't know. Kobe says Deshaun Jameson. Yeah, Deshaun Jameson was a baller today. I told you guys, watch out for this guy, kick return specialist, and he showed out. All his damn kicks got held back by holding, but I'll tell you, man, this guy really showed me something. He has the juice. He has the juice out there as far as being able to return kicks. I liked what I saw out of Deshaun Jameson. I think he's going to be the return man until Ray comes back. Shit, he might be good enough where he might unseat Ray as the return man in the future. I don't know about right away, but I like what I saw of Deshaun Jameson. Red Eye says Raiders backup O'Connell was really good. Pinpoint accuracy. You know what? I agree. We made him look like freaking Drew Brees out there today. We made him look damn good today. He was accurate, hitting marks. But I don't know if that's on our secondary or if he's really good because our defense did not play good at all today. Javon Kinlaw was getting pushed around today. I noticed he was not getting much penetration. Corners were getting cooked up. So. Think Purdy will play next week. It's interesting. I don't know. Depends on how far along he is in the rehab and if Kyle's going to, you know, allow him to. It all depends on the timing of this rehab and the recovery. I want to see Brock Purdy play. Moody, Eddie Vasquez says, Moody, are you serious? Yo, oh my God, y'all coming for Moody's neck. I told you guys earlier, fans are going to come for his neck if he has a bad game. Yo, chill out on the Moody hate. Although he's going to hear it from these fans if he struggles because he's a 3rd-round kicker. Kyle set him up. Kyle sets up players for some damn failure. I'll tell you what, Kyle puts these guys in some shit situations because this is going to be a lot of pressure on Jake Moody. Your third-round kicker replaced a legendary kicker, Robbie Gould, who never missed in the a field goal in the playoffs. And now every time Moody misses a kicker, every fan's going to come for his man's neck. I feel bad for him. Unlimited Joker. If Kinlaw doesn't show any improvement this preseason, do they downgrade him to special teams or they just cut him? I mean, at some point, I feel like they'll just keep him for depth in his contract year because they need depth on that D-line. And maybe he gets some action and, play special teams. He'll be part of the rotation. I just feel like the Niners are just hoping he gets through this training camp and preseason and everything before the season healthy. That's it. I don't even care. I don't even think they care if he's like making big plays or disrupting the offensive line or, getting stats. I just think they honestly want to see him stay healthy through this preseason. That's what they're looking for. But you're right. He does need to show some improvement because just hasn't really shown it. Yeah, Kinlaw definitely not looking good out there. He was getting pushed around, man. For all the talking he does, it's not good. Susan says, are the people saying it's the O-line or Trey needs the same ones saying we can't take Purdy's into consideration? He's QB1. Can't cut him any slack. I don't know. It's a mixed bag on Trey. Some people are saying it's him. Some people are saying the O-line. I think it's a combination. I mean, he definitely needs to get rid of the ball, faster. You can't just keep holding the ball. You're going to take sacks. That's how you get hurt. I feel like he was a little timid at times. I feel like as the game went on, he did get a little better. But the O-line was the absolute disgrace today. Mike Iupati come out of retirement. Alex says, I'm going to give old Kirk Cousins a phone call after seeing this game. You know what? I bet you're not the only one that's going to give Kirk a call. I guarantee you Kyle Shanahan is going to give Kirk Cousins. I guarantee you he's on speed dial. Kirk, if 49ers have a quarterback conundrum this season and it doesn't work out the way it needs to work out, Kyle, yo, what's up, Kirky? Yo, Kirk Cousins, you come over to the Niners. I've been wanting you on the Niners for years. Let's finally make it happen. Let's do it. I guarantee you, Kyle Shanahan will be the first person to call him up and get him over. They tried to get Phillip Rivers last year. They tried to get Phillip Rivers out of retirement. The man who has 35 kids or something like that. He has a lot of kids. And he tried to get him out of retirement. You damn straight he'll call Kirk Cousins. I'm telling you. Sati said the Javon Kinlaw instead of Tristan Wirfs pick is killing me every day more and more. Me too. Makes me cry sometimes seeing that we could have got a guy like that. CeeDee Lamb. We could have CeeDee Lamb and Ayuk. Are you kidding me? Brady on speed dial, most likely. JR3 White, Traff Lance, if he's not the person. I honestly, and I've said this before, I think Trey Lance was a John Lynch pick. I don't think it was Kyle. And Kyle said it. It was down between him and Mac Jones. And I feel like John Lynch made the call on this. I made the decision because it was John Lynch's turn to make the. I honestly feel this was John Lynch's pick, and I think Kyle, if he would have had it his way, he would have taken Mac Jones. Mario says our D coach is not him. He doesn't pump up the DC. We just talked about. See, I said this. I said I don't know. I like Steve Wilkes. He's a great teacher when he's out there. I've seen him really instruct the players. He's a good defensive backs coach. But I do miss the energy that DeMeco Ryans would provide on the sideline. I get his preseason. We'll see how this defense goes. They still can be a very good defense. I mean, Nick Bosa's not out there. Fred Warner's not out there. And all those other guys that are starters aren't out there. Hufanga. It's going to be a whole different defense week one. But I will say, these backups, they needed some energy out there. Yeah. I agree with that, though, Red Eye. It does suck. You said this the other day. You said that it's going to be tough to replace this defense from last year because they lost some starters, man. Jimmy Ward, Aziz Al-Shahir, E-Man. It is tough because at the end of the day, we have lost some really good players, not just last year, even the year before. DJ Jones, I feel like that's still going to be a loss that hurts. Although when Javon Hargrave finally plays, I think he can finally be that piece that we needed for Armstead. But, we have lost some really good players over the last couple of years on defense. You can't keep them all. Omenahu, Ebukam, I know they weren't starters, but they were good depth players. So we really got to pray that Drake Jackson, Clelin Ferrell, all these guys can step up. And Nick Bosa, the man needs to sign his damn contract at some point, as I think fans are getting a little irritated at that point. Yeah, definitely gonna miss Ryan's energy. I mean, yeah, they wouldn't have played anyways, JR. You're right, but I think as the season goes, we're gonna really see how much we miss those guys. Like Jimmy Ward, I think we're gonna miss him regardless. Just regardless, we're gonna miss his energy, his leadership. But again, it is tough to say that the defense was trash because we didn't get to see the starters, but those backups didn't look good today. So if it gets to a point where we lose key starters, these depth players are the guys that are supposed to elevate and go and be our players on the field. So right now, this game didn't instill confidence to me in terms of, okay, let's say we lose somebody for a few weeks because of an injury. I'm not too confident in many of these guys out there. Like if Javon Kinlaw has to start for us for a while, we can get pushed around. So yeah, Jameson looks good at returns. I agree. Angel says I'm worried about the nickel spot. We did talk about this. Earlier. Isaiah Oliver was getting cooked, man, and I thought he was supposed to be the answer. They said he's a starter. He did not look like a starter today. Going up against backups, getting cooked. Isaiah Oliver, they better just not hand him the job. I want to see Sam Womack get a lot of competition with them in the slot these next two games. Linebackers didn't look great today. They didn't have Fred and Greenlaw. I think Jalen Graham and D. Winters had some moments towards the end of the game. I wasn't too worried about the linebackers. I mean, they weren't getting pressure up front. I feel like the 49ers D-line didn't get enough pressure, and the secondary was just getting cooked. I feel like if you're not getting pressure, your secondary is going to be exposed, and that's what happened today. I wasn't too worried about the linebackers. Who replaces Aziz? We talked about that. I think Marcelino McCurry Ball ultimately, but we'll see, man. Mike says Thomas. Shout out to Ambry Thomas. Shout out to Ambry Thomas, man. Shout out to Ambry Thomas today. He had a game. You know what? I'm tired of talking about the negative because it was a bad negative game. But Ambry Thomas, man, he was the best player on Michigan out there today. Out of Ronnie Bell, Jake Moody, and Ambry Thomas, he was the best one out there. Although Ronnie Bell had a game until that mistake at the end when the ball deflected off his hands and it led to the pick. But Ronnie Bell was nice with it. Jake Moody was not nice with it. But Ambry Thomas, that's what I want to see. Remember we said, let's see how he plays in the game. Because Ambry, I know he's a bad practice player. Because I've seen him for 3 years at training camp, and he's been one of the worst players in training camp every single year. But today on the field, he played pretty damn good, man. I love it. Good for Ambry, man. He needed that. I love to see Ambry play good today. He needed that because it's been a rough 3 years for the guy. And again, he hasn't really been a star of any training camp, but he played really good today, and I want to see him continue it. He needed that, especially if you got a guy like Isaiah Oliver struggling. Ambry gonna win a roster spot playing like that. So shout out Ambry Thomas, man. Moody wasn't close on his field goals. Yeah, a lot of pressure on him. Like I said, it was a rough one. But he is a rookie. I'm gonna chalk it up to rookie mistakes on all these guys. Cameron Latu, these rookies, they did not look good today. Rookies had a bad day. They had a bad day. Not good. Except Deshaun Jameson, best rookie on the field today. Jair Brown, he had a few moments. Did Danny Gray play? No, he did not play today. Dwelly. Yeah, Dwelly. Shout out Ross Dwelly, man. I cooked him up all off season. He must have listened because he played good today. He wants that roster spot. Right now, if I'm picking this roster, tight end, I got George Kittle, I got Ross Dwelly, and I got Braden Willis. It's a battle between Charlie Warner, Fumagalli, and Cameron Latu for the last position at tight end 4. I don't even, if I'm Kyle, I'm disgraced at these tight ends. I only picked 3, but I know he likes 4 tight ends because he likes to block, and you need to have depth. Wonder why Gray didn't get any game time today. I heard I think he had a hamstring or something on one of the practices, so they were kind of taking him light. And no, it wasn't serious. It was just like something, he was kind of a knee or a hamstring, something like that one of the other days. So I feel like he was just kind of being precautionary. That's why, and probably because 25 players or something like that didn't suit up today. So, Fumagalli, he had a catch today. I don't think it's enough to make the roster, but shout out to him. Had a catch today. Playing on second and long is horrible for Kyle's offense. How he came out throwing. Yeah, he came out aggressive, huh? I didn't see him. He didn't run the ball initially, and you're right. In Kyle's offense, when you get behind and it's second and long, and you don't get those first few yards early on, it's a tough offense to dig yourself out of a hole. And they dug themselves in a hole for a while, and then the sacks kind of piled up, and again, the offensive line was just kind of deteriorating. It was tough, man. Beast mode. He says Raiders prepared us. They had a whole scheme ready, prepared for us. Um, yeah, they really were prepared for us. They really, really were prepared for us. They really were. Kyle without Jimmy will be interesting. It's always interesting with Kyle, but we'll see. Because if he can't win games, this is that's a true statement. Because if he can't win games this year without Jimmy Garoppolo, because let's be honest, every year Kyle, when he wins games, Jimmy's primarily been the quarterback. Except last year when Brock Purdy came in and had Brock Purdy magic. If Kyle does not win games this year, the only time he's won games is when he had Jimmy Garoppolo, which is crazy. There's a lot of pressure on this whole team. They got a lot of great players in their prime. It's gonna be an interesting season. I don't know what's gonna happen. I just want this damn team to win a Super Bowl, but after today, I just want to make sure that we get through the season. Looks like the second team was up throwing dice in Vegas. They just didn't play inspired at all today. Oh man, I bet you Jimmy was just laughing today though on the sideline. Like, can you imagine? Whew. Ty Davis Price, he does look more explosive. He looked good in camp, but they didn't really run the ball much today. I feel like they couldn't. They were down a lot, obviously, but yeah, it was a I don't know. It was a weird game. It just wasn't a 49er, performance. But yeah, I mean, again, if we're gonna be honest and talk about good players today, we can sit here and talk about all the crap because it was a 34-7 game. There's not many positives to talk about. It was an ugly game, a lot to clean up. The penalties were not good. 49ers have to get their rhythm going. They have to get their offensive line figured out. Secondary needs to figure it out. But, there were some impressive players today. Well, maybe not impressive is not the word, but some players that stood out. We'll review them real quick. Ambry Thomas had a good game. Shout out to him. I'll give Ronnie Bell his props. He had a good game until that last quarter where he, had that rookie mistake deflected, but he played good until then. You can't take away because of that one mistake. But he had a solid game today. Shout out to Ronnie Bell. Deshaun Jameson, I thought played really good. Rookie linebacker Jalen Graham, he was pretty good towards the end, although it was garbage time, but he stood out to me. Those guys had a nice game today. So shout out to them. Everybody else, it's gonna be a long week. You gotta love it. We're already in shambles. It's not even it's just week 1 preseason. And we are in shambles, ladies and gentlemen. We are in top form. I love you guys. Pharrell, yeah, I'll give Pharrell. Pharrell played decent. I'll give him that. It was a revenge. He got his revenge sack. I knew he'd get a money play. Good for him. Good for him. Conley was good. Yeah. Good call. He did play good. He looked like an older Brandon Ayuk out there. He is 30. I can't believe he's been in the league for 9 years. That's the vet. You know why Conley, though, was probably good today? Because he's the vet. 9-year vet. That's why he looked good. Everybody else was young, a couple of years. And most of these guys were young players. That's what the preseason is, right? Conley's been in the league longer than most of these guys. So yeah, he played good against all the youngsters. He took them to school, man. Conley was out there hooping. He was hooping. He was out there like, when old man, when the old head goes to the court, he's like 35, 36, and he's been a baller his whole life. He's playing with them 18 to 20-year-olds, and he just balls on them and has the game of his day. He kind of played like that. I was hoping that he'd get a touchdown because he had a good camp, but Conley looked good. The vet. 9-year vet. It's crazy. Sadi says the O'Connell kid. He looked good. I'm not gonna lie, but again, I don't know if it was because our secondary looked bad. I don't know. Our secondary was not good today. I'll tell you that. He looks like OGBA, 100%. He does. I'm telling you, he looks like what Brandon Ayuk's gonna look like in like 6 years from now, 7 years. That's Brandon Ayuk in 7 years, but better because Chris Conley's not a. He's never been a Pro Bowl type player, but you know what I mean. Brandon Ayuk's gonna go crazy this year. Conley looked like Emmanuel Sanders in the slide. That's good. I like it. I like it. Bummer, but that's why they call it preseason. Yeah, and that's why I'm here to talk to you. Get through it. We got to have our therapy sessions. We went through it. Was it a good day? Absolutely not. Was it a shitty day? Absolutely. It was a horrible day. But we got to get through it. It's preseason. At least we got something to talk about. At least tomorrow when you guys go to work, you got shit to talk about. You can vent. You can cuss. You can get it out of your system. It's football season. I love it. Today was awful, Peter Parker. You're speechless. I know it wasn't good. But let's hope we're not speechless at the end of the season. Jimmy won't be laughing in the real season. I love these comments. Big time says, I think Ronnie Bell might take that wide receiver spot. 4 spot. Pushing, man. He's pushing. I like him. I like the kid. He's had a good mini camp, good training camp. He had a good showing today. He's pushing. I love it. So we'll see. Yeah, Raiders, this is their Super Bowl, Red Eye. They're not going anywhere with the Chargers and the Chiefs in that division. I agree. Good for them, though. Good for them to win this game. This is their Super Bowl. They ain't going anywhere. We definitely in shambles today, Peter Parker. William Roberts. This is a question. Will Zane be our kicker if Moody keeps missing? Maybe that's why they kept 2 kickers on the roster. I don't think that he'll. I think Moody's the guy. You drafted him in the 3rd round. And this is the thing. Kyle does this to himself. He ties himself to players. He absolutely has to keep Jake Moody on this roster this year and write it out. Because he drafts players sometimes where they shouldn't be drafted. I love Jake Moody, and I think he's going to be a good player. The guy was a solid-ass kicker in college. And again, Justin Tucker had a horrible preseason in his first year as a rookie, but he's one of the best kickers in the league. So it's too early to say Jake Moody's going to be terrible. But what I've said today is there's going to be constant pressure on Jake Moody throughout his whole career, and fans are going to hate on him if he has a bad game. That's just it. But Kyle has done this with many players. Jalen Hurd, Trey Sermon, all these guys that were drafted kind of earlier than they should have been. They get put in this big spotlight. And Javon Kinlaw, players that probably should not have been drafted where they were, Kyle puts them in a spotlight, and he kind of is tied to them for a long time. Jake Moody, 3rd round pick. That's kind of crazy for a kicker. It's going to have a lot of pressure on him. So, what was Kyle doing all week? He's supposed to have these boys prepared to play. You know what? It's kind of a good question, Parker, because they even got, I mean, the Raiders dominated them in training camp during the joint practices, and then they got dominated in this game. So I feel like everything that came out of training camp spilled over. The 49ers maybe just not prepared for the regular season. I think they still got a lot to learn. We all know Kyle's offensive scheme is very complex. We all know that the players are still waiting for Nick Bosa to come back, and the 49ers defense is very complex, and you got a new defensive coordinator. There's still a lot of changes. We have lost a lot of players, like Red Eye said a couple of minutes ago. Niners lost a lot of players. They are going through some changes. Offensive, or the defensive coach is a whole new guy. We got a whole new offensive line on the right side. It's going to take time to gel. And the backups just didn't look good. So, still early, though. At the end of the day, you know what? Long season to go. So, yeah, Mike, that's true. You can't give up on him after one game. Yeah, there's no way. We need the Rams as our medicine. We do. Moody missed 2 kicks in training camp. I think it was like a 48-yarder and like a 60-yarder in camp. He was knocking them down in training camp. But training camp's different than a game because you don't have any pressure against you in training camp. So that's the only thing on Moody. I feel like he's going to be okay. He's going to get these misses out of the way. I don't think there's anything to be worried about. But again, people are going to hate on him if he has a bad game. So. Bring back Robbie. Yeah, let's get some medicine. Let's play the Rams soon. But yeah. Anyways, you guys have a good rest of your day. We've been on live for an hour. I'm gonna hop off. Hope you guys have a good rest of your night. Could have been a better result. Practice makes perfect, says Supreme. I agree. we'll talk a little bit more on Instagram later. I'm going to go live in about, give me like 30 minutes or so, an hour. We'll see. But you guys have a good rest of your Sunday. Enjoy it. Have a good week. The 49ers rebound. They'll recuperate, rehash everything. Tomorrow is not Victory Monday. Unfortunately, it's not. It's not going to be Victory Monday. I had the shirt ready to go. It's not going to be Victory Monday. But we'll be back next week. Niners, Broncos, preseason home opener. Get excited for that, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good day. Have a good week. I love you. Go Niners. Appreciate you for listening to me rant for the last hour. I love you guys. Have a good rest of your day.